Now, today we're going to be talking about the latest news in regards to e-bike laws, regulations, and licensing. Now, this will play a factor when it comes to scooters as well, but my personal opinion, I don't think that these things are going to be happening here in 2025 unless they're executive orders. We'll be talking about all of that, as well as the fact that police are actually bringing out little dynos in order to confiscate your bike and scooter right on the spot. I'll be showing you that as well. But first, let's dive into this article by Micah Toll from Electric. It says, the strained logic behind NYC's push to force license plates on electric bicycles. Now, as I get through this, I want you to comment below your thoughts on this entire topic. I'm not going to read this article to you, but I will be scrolling down to a key point that I think is pretty important. While e-bikes have been responsible for 47, I repeat, 47 lethal traffic accidents in New York City in the last 5 years. 5 years, 47 of them. That's according to the New York Post. Cars have killed 61 pedestrians in New York City in the first half of 2024. All right, keep those numbers in your head because those things do matter. These are stats that actually do matter. And sometimes when things kind of get crazy like this, where people are looking for reasons to hate something or tax on something, this is ways that they're able to fearmonger to get people to jump on board with it. I'm going to link this article as well as everything I'm putting in today's video in the description below for you to be able to check out. But it is a very, very interesting article I'm not going to dive into. But I do want to talk about some of the photos that Mike has put in here. So there's a photo on the screen right here showing two bike lanes, one each direction, two different lanes, obviously heading either direction. But you see here, there are two cars parked in the bike lane, and there is a box truck in the furthest bike lane heading the opposite direction. Now, if you haven't seen this video by Casey Neistat, I highly encourage you to go check it out. I want to say it's probably like 10 years old now. He did a video specifically on bike lanes in New York City and how he got a ticket because he was not riding in the bike lane. It is a super entertaining video, but it's also factual. You know, it's insane. And it ends with him running straight into the back of a police car that's parked in the bike lane. The same police that are giving him tickets for riding outside of the bike lane. Pretty wild. So this article goes on to talk about all the things that we're going to be talking about here in today's video, but I do think Micah writes really good articles without putting too much of his opinion into it, because at the end of the day, we're trying to read the news, and here you're getting the news, but you're also getting a little bit of my opinion, and I'll let you know when it's there. So now let's check out the latest news discussion from CBS News New York. This is going to be interesting. I will be pausing periodically to kind of give my 2 cents.
New at noon, a hearing on a proposed law that would require e-bikes to be licensed in New York City is underway. Supporters say it would make streets safer, but critics argue it would be too expensive to implement and enforce. Natalie Duddridge has more from City Hall.
Well, Cindy, currently e-bikes are not regulated. This bill, Intro 606, would require them to be both licensed and registered. This law, dubbed Priscilla's Law, is named after Priscilla Loke, who was killed in September 2023 after she was struck by an e-bike while walking to work in Chinatown. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, from 2017 to 2022, e-bikes and e-scooters caused nearly 250,000 emergency room visits and 215 deaths nationwide.
I want to pause it there because a lot of people will take that as like they're reading only the headline, right? That is a pretty wild headline if you think about it. Over 250,000, right? But a lot of people will only hear that number and kind of put it with New York City, and they're going to be like, oh my God, 250,000 ER visits just in New York City. But they're not understanding that is nationwide, all right? Nationwide. And we have a massive nation, and especially when it comes to commuting on bicycles, electric bikes, this is pretty small in the scale of real accidents compared to pedestrians walking across roads. I can't tell you how many times I've ridden my bike or walked and seen people with AirPods in, headphones on, faces down into their screens, not even paying attention to the surroundings. Like, it is an insane thing to do that. You got to pay attention to your surroundings, not just because vehicles could hit you or a bike could hit you, but people mug people all the time. People rob people all the time. I mean, look at New York City. I mean, they're a perfect example of that. So just putting that out there, always think about the numbers as a wide frame versus a narrow part in New York City.
Councilmember Bob Holden, who sponsored the bill, and other advocates and survivors of e-bike accidents spoke out about the dangers. They say e-bikes speed along sidewalks, they go the wrong way, and many leave the scene when accidents occur.
Sometimes that's also due to infrastructure. Not all of New York City is set up to be bicycle friendly. Not all cities are set up to be bicycle friendly. And sometimes when you're riding against traffic, it is a faster commute because time is money to these DoorDash drivers and all that stuff. It is a faster commute to get to those people. I don't necessarily fully condone it, but sometimes I understand. And jumping from bike lane to sidewalk and down the bike lane, that's a lot safer in my opinion than going bike lane to go around a vehicle that's parked in the bike lane, which should be ticketed. They should be ticketing those people heavily because they are sometimes the main cause for the accidents. You have to go around a box truck. You have to go really wide in order to see past the nose of that truck in case another cyclist or a pedestrian's walking, not paying attention, boom, you T-bone them.
Priscilla Loke was killed. There's never any accountability. Riders flee 90% of the time.
Red light cameras and speed cameras are important. So we're going to use that technology plus police officers. What else can we do? I'd like to hear solutions from anybody else out there.
Got one for you. So solutions: widen your infrastructure, attack the real causes of the accidents. A lot of times it's drivers, inattentive driving, people sitting in the middle of intersections, forcing these cyclists to have to go around them, then jump on to the regular walking path. There's been plenty of times where cars block those intersections and then cyclists have to go through, or people walking have to walk around those cars. Then they break their traffic routine. You understand? And not just that, but the fact that he wants to use red light cameras, and I've gotten tickets, I'm sure a lot of you have too, when you're driving, you drive through what was a yellow light and it's, miraculously turns red when you go under it. You get a nice little flash and you get a picture and you get something in the mail. But that's done based on the weight of the vehicle because it's able to trigger those sensors. There's not like sensors on poles to let you know like once something is past that weighs next to nothing. It could be a pedestrian and it will set off that sensor. It's not how that works. So they'll have to change that infrastructure as well to then accommodate lighter vehicles like bicycles. So I don't see that happening, but they definitely should widen the infrastructure, especially the bike lanes. Maybe they just, if they're going to get rid of cars, that's what New York City wants to do. They want to get rid of cars. They need to widen the bike lanes in, or maybe make the pedestrian lanes more narrow instead of taking up so much real estate when it comes to transportation, as those sidewalks are so wide. But that's just my 2 cents, just off the top of my head. You could probably go a bit further as well.
I don't want license plates.
If you read the bill itself, it applies to every single motorized vehicle in New York City that's not currently regulated by the DMV. So that includes e-scooters, that includes e-bikes, that includes your electric wheelchair if you're disabled and you get around.
That's interesting. So like in the EU, they have like a cap on 350 watt motors. So I don't know if you have a wheelchair or anybody has one. I don't know what the cap is on those. I always thought they were about like 150, 250 watt. So I don't think that they'll be putting licenses and registrations and license plates on the wheelchairs per se, but there is going to be a trickle down effect when it comes to regulation, and not just the consumer going to feel it, but then these companies are going to feel it and they're going to have to pass that on to the consumer. And a lot of people aren't going to buy like a product like a scooter or a bike or a wheelchair for that matter, unless it says regulations compliant. The same as you have UL compliant for all these batteries. It's going to get pretty wild.
We're going to have to license and register all of those vehicles. We don't even know how expensive this bill would be.
We also heard from a transportation alternative spokesperson who says no cost has ever been discussed. They say this would require new DMV type bureaus to be. No
cost has been discussed. That's how you know this is just like, they're just trying to get people used to it. No cost has been discussed, and that means they don't have anything in play. I think that this isn't even going to happen in 2025. I think it's going to be crazy the fact they're going to keep promoting this unless there is a big accident, as in children are hurt. They use things like that where they try to grandstand on certain situations to make things pass, and they're going to try to pass those things with like executive orders in the area. So I'll keep my eye out on that, and I think New York City is probably going to be the first one.
Established around the city to license the tens of thousands of electric devices. The bill's sponsor says it's still in the early stages and many details need to be worked out. As for this hearing is expected to last all afternoon, it could be months before we see a vote.
So I've reached out to legislators in that area, just so you know, New York City, Philadelphia, some in San Francisco, and in LA. I haven't heard back from any of them. And I don't know if it's because I'm just not local or I don't have like an outfit that kind of says I'm press, but I've reached out to their teams, haven't heard anything back. Sent them emails, nothing. And if you live in those areas, feel free to contact me. If you're able to talk on my behalf to them, I'll send you questions to them. I would love to hear back. Maybe jump on a FaceTime with them to try to see what their real point of view of this is. Maybe ask them the real hard questions, because I feel like these news organizations don't do that. Because I don't want things like what happened to that lady to happen here, more of it happening. I mean, it happened in Florida, it's happened in San Francisco, it's happened in Chicago. I mean, they shut down and stopped all electric bikes from being able to be ridden in Florida because of that one child. I would say child, I mean, I'm older, so I'd say like that 13, 14-year-old kid riding an electric bike at nighttime and hit that woman on accident. She wasn't wearing a helmet. She hit her head and she died. Unfortunate, very unfortunate circumstance. And then it banned electric bikes in that area with an executive order. So they did a soft ban of like, oh, we're going to do it for 30 days and then we're going to have a big meeting and the whole town's going to discuss. That's how they get to it. They play on the heartstrings, and this is a very minimal thing that happens. You know, you're not getting many e-bike accidents. You're getting more bicycle accidents than anything. You're getting more pedestrians getting struck by vehicles than anything. Now, that's what this video was. I found this YouTube short, and this is it's a little bit here.
If only the cyclist was a bit more responsible, this wouldn't have happened.
The nephew of 68-year-old Priscilla Loke talks about this crash earlier this month. We paused.
So, I mean, it could be that the cyclist was irresponsible. It's hard to tell. She's crossing one direction on the street, that other pedestrian's crossing another direction, and then the cyclist is going another direction. Somebody there is in the wrong, for sure. That's absolute. You don't know who it is. This is the only angle we have. And I'm not an investigator. I'm just using my brain and my eyes for a second to try to pick it apart.
Video at the moment that a man riding a city bike e-bike ran into Ms. Loke, according to her family. The man stopped, interacted with Ms. Loke, and walked across the street to alert police officers about the crash that happened around 10:30 a.m. on September 5th. The cops came over, but what happened next is what's raising questions for the victim's many supporters. They say that police let the cyclist leave and may not have gotten information from him.
There are things that we need to get access to, the police report. The family wants answers. If it's a city bike and they have records, why haven't the family been notified?
Exactly. You know, it's not that hard for these companies. I mean, you could easily get a police record there. I mean, even if they didn't have a police report, you should be able to find out what officers didn't do their job, have them reprimanded in some way. You can reach out to the city bike company, get credit card statements, because I've rented bikes like this, Lime scooters. You have to provide a credit card and an ID to be able to follow you just in case you end up stealing that product, and just in case things like this happen. I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find out, based on description, location, where those areas of those bikes are able to be rented from. You'd probably be able to narrow that down pretty easily. Now, transitioning from this straight into cops taking e-bikes, right? So cops are now going to be having dynos to be able to take your e-bike, put it on a dyno, determine whether or not it is allowable to be on the road, traveling at too high rate of speed, too high wattage of a motor. Yeah, they're going to be able to do that right on the spot. And there's going to be workarounds. People are going to try to figure this out to try to reset their bikes right on the spot quickly. But I do find this pretty entertaining. This video cracks me up every time. These cops are protecting and serving their community one e-bike at a time. I'll tell you, it's pretty sad, pretty funny at the same time, but honestly, really sad. I just noticed right there that he didn't start by pedaling. He started with the throttle. So his foot started to kind of engage, and then he throttled it and then started pedaling, and he's pedaling harder than the throttle. So it's putting out more power than it should. That guy probably got a ticket. That probably sucks. I see this happening in the U.S. before you see licensing, regulations, all of that stuff happening here in the U.S. Unless there's some type of executive order being pushed through because somebody important got hurt. Something similar happened in Florida. And if you're not familiar with that story, I'll link that entire video in the description below for you to check out. These are my thoughts. These are my speculation right here, and I want to hear yours in the comment section below. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree with me, definitely let me know. I love the communication within this community. And with that being said, let me know your comments in the comment section below. If you guys like this video, drop a like. If you love it, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one.